Okay, everyone, let's dive back in. Last time we laid out the groundwork for Maritain's thought. Today, we're throwing him into the ring with a real heavyweight of the 20th century, Jean-Paul Sartre. We're going to put Maritain's philosophy to the test and really challenge an idea that I know feels very natural to a lot of us. The idea that having a human nature is basically a cage that limits our freedom. We're going to see if Maritain can convince us otherwise. Existence precedes essence. You all know this phrase. It's the rallying cry, the absolute cornerstone of Sartrean existentialism. And you have to admit, it's a powerful, almost intoxicating idea, right? It puts everything squarely on our shoulders. This is our starting point. And the appeal is just so obvious, isn't it? I mean, this is probably the view that many of you find the most compelling. You're just thrown into the world, no instruction manual, no pre-written script. You are radically, terrifyingly free. You get to create your own essence, your own values, completely from scratch. No human nature holding you back. It feels like the definition of liberation. But this is where Maritain steps in. He looks at this vision of total liberation, and he asks a really devastating question. Is this really freedom? Or is it a kind of philosophical black hole? An idea that sounds good, but ultimately just devours itself and takes real freedom down with it. This is the core tension we're going to unpack today. Now here's the big twist. You'd expect Maritain, coming from a Thomistic background, to just reject existentialism completely, but he doesn't. In fact, he claims to be the authentic existentialist. He argues that his philosophy, rooted in the realism of Thomas Aquinas, is the one that truly gives existence the respect it deserves. So here's his core critique, and it's a huge one. Maritain says that Sartre makes a catastrophic mistake. By pitting existence against essence, he's basically sawing off the very branch he's sitting on. For Maritain, you cannot have one without the other. They're inseparable. The idea that I exist, but I am nothing, is for him a philosophical dead end. It's a contradiction that just collapses on itself. And this quote just perfectly captures Maritain's point. If you strip away our essence, our intelligible nature, what we are, what are you left with? Sartre sees a godlike creator. Maritain sees an absurd void, an absurd gulf of pure and unformed liberty, a freedom that has no shape, no direction, no ground to stand on. It's a liberty that can't actually do anything meaningful because there's no one there to be free. So to really get a handle on Maritain's argument, we have to do what good philosophers do. We've got to hit pause and redefine our terms. Let's forget the whole Sartrean opposition for a minute. We need to look at what essence and existence actually mean in the tradition Maritain is working in. Okay, essence. I know the gut reaction, especially after reading Sartre, is to think of essence as a cage, a set of limitations. But for Maritain, that is a complete misunderstanding. Essence is the whatness of a thing. It's the blueprint. It's the intelligible structure that makes you a human and not a rock. It's not a limit on your existence. It's the very capacity you have for a specific kind of existence. And then you have existence, or esse. And for the Thomists, this isn't just some flat, passive fact. It is the most dynamic thing imaginable. It's the supreme act that takes that blueprint, that essence, and makes it real. Aquinas famously called it the perfection of all perfections. You know, a living mouse is, ontologically speaking, more perfect than the biggest, most complex dead star. Why? Because the mouse has esse. It possesses the incredible act of being. So you see the fundamental shift here? Sartre sets this up as a battle to the death, existence versus essence. One has to destroy the other. Maritain sees a partnership, a polarity. Essence is the potential, existence is the act that makes it real. They aren't enemies, they're two sides of the same coin. One gives form, the other gives reality. Okay, but I can practically hear the question forming in your heads. What about determinism? If we have a nature and essence, aren't we just determined by our biology and our material conditions? This is the critical objection, and this is where Maritain introduces his most brilliant and essential distinction, the one that unlocks his whole vision of freedom. He says that every one of us exists as a union of two poles. As an individual, I am my material pole. I'm a specimen of the human race, a fragment of the universe, completely subject to the laws of physics and biology. This is where determinism lives. But, and this is the whole game, we are also a person. Personhood is our spiritual pole. It's rooted in the part of us that transcends pure matter. As a person, I'm not just a part of a whole, I am a whole, a universe in myself. And this is the source of our real dignity and our freedom. This quote just gets right to the heart of it. Yes, as an individual, I am a part. I am determined by the material world around me. But as a person, I am more than that. My personhood gives me a fundamental independence, a wholeness that can't be reduced to just my material bits and pieces. So, now that we have this crucial distinction on the table, the determined individual versus the free person, we can finally see how this leads to two completely different ideas of what freedom even is. Let's put them side by side. For Sartre, freedom is this pure, ungrounded spontaneity. It's choice for the sake of choice, with nothing to guide it. But for Maritain, that's not real freedom. That's just being arbitrary. True freedom for him is the freedom of autonomy. It's a freedom that is rooted in our essence as rational persons, and it's aimed at a goal, our flourishing and perfection. And this is the key takeaway. Freedom isn't just about having a bunch of options. It's about having the capacity, based in our reason, to understand what is good for us and to freely direct ourselves toward it. It's a purposeful freedom. The more we choose what's in line with our nature as persons, the freer, Maritain would argue, we actually become. And this is a really provocative way to put it. I know it can be jarring to our modern ears. The faculty of sinning is not a liberty, but a servitude. What he means is that the ability to choose evil, to act against our own rational nature, isn't a sign of how free we are. For Maritain, it's a defect of freedom. It's a kind of slavery to our impulses, a bondage to something less than what we are as full persons. So, after all this deep dive metaphysics, you might be asking, why does this matter? Well, it matters because it has massive ethical and political consequences. This is the payoff of Maritain's whole argument. It's about providing a solid, stable foundation for human dignity and universal human rights. And this table just lays the stakes out so clearly. In Sartre's world, where do values come from? We invent them. Moral law, it's totally situational. As he said, no one to give me orders. And the basis for rights? Well, it's individual choice, or maybe a social agreement we can change at any time. But look at Maritain's side. Values are grounded in our shared human nature. The moral law is universal because it's based on reason. And our rights, they aren't based on an agreement. They're based on the inherent dignity of the person. This is such a powerful idea. For Maritain, your rights aren't something a government gives you or that we all just decided to believe in. They belong to you because of what you are. As a person, a spiritual whole made for truth and goodness, you possess a dignity that is, as he says, naturally sacred. It's baked into the very structure of reality. And this is the final, lingering question I want to leave you with. This is the challenge Maritain poses to the entire Sartrean project. If we really just invent all our values from a place of pure, groundless choice, what stops us from inventing a world without human rights? If it's all just a choice, on what basis can we say that inventing a value system that oppresses others is objectively wrong? It's a question that really gets to the heart of what we believe about ethics and dignity. So let's chew on that.